Good evening and welcome to the Bellefleur Tire Shop Grand Falls Rapids pregame show. It is a cold January evening on a Friday night. The first game of the 2025 home game season for the Grand Falls Rapids. The last year is come and gone, and we are into a brand new era of Rapids hockey. Quite a few changes, facing off against a division rival in a playoff chase that is all important coming up over in the next couple of months here. So we are back once more. The Fredericton Red Wings have rolled into town to take on the Grand Falls Rapids, both teams trying to chase the Miramichi Timberwolves and the Campbellton Tigers in what is sure to be a very intense, very physical, and probably going to be a high-scoring affair as well, as these division rival games always typically are. And with that being said, we are going to talk about some of the things that are going to be discussed in the episode coming up over the next few minutes here. I want to introduce a couple of new things that are coming to the show, including a brand new segment. We talked about it called the Heat Index. That is going to be coming up. It's going to be making its debut the first time today, and it's going to be very, very exciting. Starting things off, now you may have noticed a couple of big changes in the Rapids organization itself. We're going to get to that as well. But to start things off, we are going to go right into things and show you the tale of the tape for tonight's game. So the Grand Falls Rapids, obviously the home team for this evening, 8-16, 1-5 on the season, 3-5, 1-1 in their last 10. 107 goals for, 129 goals against, so their goal differential is a minus 22. They're looking to correct that as well. On their special teams, they've struggled a little bit. The power play at 20.3%, fourth place in the Eastlink North Division, and their penalty kill is second last in the Eastlink North Division with 75.3%. Now, how does this Fredericton Red Wings team stack up compared to the Grand Falls Rapids? It seems that these two teams play each other very well whenever the Red Wings are in town. The Red Wings, on the other hand, 7-20, 1-1 on the season, 1-8, 1-0 in their last 10. 91 goals for and 159 goals against. That is insane and by far the worst goal differential in the league. They've been outscored exponentially. It is insanity. Their power play percentage, however, slightly better than the Grand Falls Rapids at 23.2%, third in the Eastlink North Division, but their penalty kill, on the other hand, dead last in the Eastlink North Division with 69.6%. We're going to talk about the X factors of the matchup here and the leading scorers for each team. Jeremy Dastu leading the way with 47 points for the Grand Falls Rapids, leading in assists with 33, and Jonah Laird, who had himself an explosive first half of the season so far with 19 goals, leading the charge in tickling the twine. On the other side for the Fredericton Red Wings, Ben DeYoung with 12 goals on the season, Salem Johnson with 21 assists, and overall points, Ben DeYoung leading the way as well. Now, this is going to be a huge matchup for the Grand Falls Rapids, not just because both teams are chasing and not just because it's a division rival game, but this is kind of, in a way, the new era of Rapids hockey, and the reason being is because there was a big change made over the holiday break, and Danny Braun was officially relieved of duties as the general manager of the Grand Falls Rapids, and Mathieu Martin was brought in as the new general manager of the Grand Falls Rapids. So we're going to talk about that slightly as well, but I want to go over the storylines for the game tonight as well. Grand Falls faces off against Fredericton, Miramichi, Pictou County, and Truro in their next 5 games. They play Fredericton again not too far down the road from here, and there is only 22 games left in the regular season from here. So they are 13 points out of the playoffs right now. The Miramichi Timberwolves are holding that lead, and I think the Campbellton Tigers are they're only 2 points in front. So it's still a very tight divisional race, and anything is possible at this point. Never, ever rule anything out. However, the schedule does not get easier in the second half of the season, and With that said, the road to playoff contention will get tougher, and the teams will not be easier. The Grand Falls Rapids, they face a lot of diversity this season. We've seen that. We've seen how they've overcome it. And we've seen how close they can get and how well they play those high-strung teams like the Edmundston Blizzard, like the Miramichi Timberwolves, like the Campbellton Tigers. We've seen how they can play them and play them well. This is the start of something great for the Grand Falls Rapids. We were talking about that in the post-game show. We were talking about that in the post-game show the last time, how the Rapids have a great opportunity in front of them to really make a difference in the division and start to climb the standings. We saw Jeremy Dastu last game, who had a lights-out game, 4 points, 3 goals, and an assist in that dominant win over the Amherst Ramblers. There is a lot to be excited about with this Rapids team going into this new part of the year. And a lot of big changes. So we mentioned that Mathieu Martin, he got hired as the GM for the Grand Falls Rapids. So why is this a good thing? We're going to talk about that first. It's a great thing for a few reasons. Number one, because he has the experience in the league, played for the Dieppe Commandos for 4 seasons, and kind of knows how this league operates a little bit. So with Dieppe, he was able to gain that experience as a player. But on the flip side of that, he has experience with being a staff member as well. For those who are unfamiliar with his journey in the Maritime Hockey League, he won the Metalfab Cup with the Edmundston Blizzard their first season in 2017-18. He was an assistant coach for the team and was part of that championship winning lineup. So that is a huge asset that he brings to the team. The other thing is... 2 other things, actually. Because of his prospect knowledge, he knows a lot of great prospects that are coming up through the draft. Because of his experience with the Moncton Flyers AAA U16 program, he is an assistant coach there as well. And he's got that knowledge on why, or not why, but how these prospects are coming up and who is coming up for the Grand Falls Rapids. And obviously, with the drafts being the way that they have been in the last couple of years, trying to find talent, especially in the Maritime League, is tough on the best of days, but I think with him at the helm, we are going to be able to find a lot of great talent coming up through the draft in the next, not even just the next year, but the next couple of years going in. So we're going to see what happens there, of course. Now, I want to look back at Danny Braun's tenure. He was obviously the Grand Falls Rapids' first, and before Mathieu Martin, he the only Grand Falls Rapids GM through the course of the history of the team, which is in 8 years. Looking back at his tenure, he brought in players such as Dominique Leblanc, Jean-Simon Belanger in that first season, Jonah Laird, Nolan Boyd, who was a fan favorite here in Grand Falls. There's so many names, but the only issue was it was so entertaining, right? It was through the years you got to know some of the players around the community and you got to see some of the success that they had on the ice. However, the results were, it was a little bit disappointing, right? Not to take anything away from him. He brought in some amazing names, but I think it's a change that's going to be a welcome change, I think, for the fans and for the team as well. So again, he did such a great job at building teams in the past, but now it comes down to Mathieu to bring in that new era of Rapids hockey and to start by getting things to go the way that they want to go in the sense of how they're playing, who they're bringing in. If there's any new names with the trade deadline obviously coming up next Friday, we won't know who or if there's going to be any moves made quite yet. So there obviously is quite a bit left to do on that front. But I think this is going to be a huge addition, and I'm very excited to see how this Rapids team will change with him at the helm. Obviously, so many incredible personnel on this team, and he adds to an already solid front office management group that I think is going to be, in the long run of things, very, very beneficial for this team. So what does this mean for the organization? It's a very, very bright spot because you've got a guy who obviously knows the player side of the league. He has the staff side of the league. He has the prospects. There's really no negative with this hire. I think that it was a really good one, gangbusters to say the very least. And I think it's going to be long-term, like I said, very beneficial for this Grand Falls Rapids team, not just with the knowledge of the prospects, but with those connections that he has to the league as well. I think it's going to be fantastic. So welcome aboard, Mathieu Martin, our second and newest general manager of the Grand Falls Rapids. This is going to be an exciting time. And if you're a Rapids fan, now is the time to start cheering your boys on, because there may only be 22 regular season games left, but it is not impossible to make the playoffs with the lineup that they have, with the talent that they have, and with the willpower that they've shown that they can give through the first half of the regular season. Now, looking into the games ahead, they're on the road for 4 out of their next 5 games. We mentioned that they're playing Fredericton twice, once at home and once on the road. And it's crunch time. Now, we mentioned that this is going to be a huge second half of the regular season. There's 22 games left, and you really can't afford to go on a 4 or 5 game slide. So the pressure's on. And with that said, I am confident that this team can turn things around and start to build and really push Miramichi and Campbellton to the brink, put some distance between them and Fredericton, and obviously get those points made up that they want to get made up. There's so much time that they can make up within those 22 games. There's 44 potential points up for grabs within the next 22 regular season games, and they want to focus in on that. Just focus on winning the game one step at a time, and from there, it doesn't matter if you're playing 3 or 4 games during the weekend. Focus on the first game and win it period by period. That's what my dad always said when I was younger, is just win the game 1 period at a time. That is their secret for what they have to do. Keys to the game for tonight: replicate how they played against the Amherst Ramblers. They scored first. They didn't feed into a lot of the penalties that were being led onto them, and they played solid with the lead. They didn't give up that 3-goal lead that they had, or that 4-goal lead that they had. They played like they had a purpose. And that's something that I was just extremely satisfied with, is the fact that they are just doing a fantastic job, or did a fantastic job that last game of 2024 against Amherst. Just fantastic all around. If they keep doing that, that's going to be a huge key to the game for them. Get your top guys firing, but also your depth as well. So we've seen especially the past couple of games, the 3rd and 4th line have really started to click and really started to bring in that grindiness, if that's even a word, to the game. You obviously have that first line of Laird, Dastu, and sometimes Baxter. It changes here and there, but the dynamic duo of Jonah Laird and Jeremy Dastu is just fantastic. That is their nickname, the dynamic duo for the two of them. So they've been firing on all cylinders, but you started to see guys like Braden Campbell stepping up a little bit more. You're starting to see like the Nick Brennan stepping up a little bit more, right? It's all a matter of getting your depth to produce as well, and not just relying on your top guys. And the other thing is just play solid defense, because we saw the last game that Adam LaCour, he had a lights out game. And we talked about how important it is for your goalie to steal a game here and there. He had an absolutely lights out game in that game against Amherst. In addition to having a solid goaltender, you need solid defensemen in front of them. And I'm talking to guys who get down and block shots, having an expert penalty kill, making sure that you're breaking up those entry zone passes, making damn sure that puck gets nowhere close to your goaltender. One of the guys that I think was really solid at doing that over the last couple of games was Raphael Denis. He was named one of the players of the month for December. We're going to talk about that as well. But him, Ethan Kane, Will Morrison, there are so many defensemen on this team that are they're giving their heart and soul out on that blue line. And especially over the last 3 or 4 games, we've started to see them really lock in on how things are going to go from there. With that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about this as well, and it's Raphael Denis getting one of the Player of the Month honors for the month of December. 14 points in 8 games, including 12 assists and 2 goals through that stretch. It's no secret that he's an offensive dynamo and is a very solid playmaker. Some would even say a power play quarterback if their power play translated a little bit more results. But he is such a dynamic defenseman, such an offensive threat from the back end. And it's a player that at the beginning of the season we were definitely missing. And I'm very happy that he's back in the lineup and producing at such a great rate in his overage season. Player of the month, one of 3 players of the month for December. He was named the 2nd star of the month. Great on Raphael Denis. And with that said, we are going to watch how he does tonight in the game. But I want to transition into a very new segment that we brought into the show. We talked about it last on the pregame, or on the postgame rather, that we were going to be bringing something in the new year, new show, new year, new segment. Call it what you will. Now, this one's going to be called the Rapids Heat Index. So this, just a little bit of a recap if you aren't familiar with it, which if you didn't watch the postgame from last time, it's going to be a segment where we break down the accomplishments of whatever the best Rapids player was from that week. Let's say they statistically had a great week, or there were some shot blocks, epic plays, anything like that were happening the week of when we're going to be doing it. That is what we're going to go over. So without further ado, we are going to get into the Heat Index right here in the Bellefleur Tire Shop, Grand Falls Rapids pre-game show. Welcome to this week's Rapids Heat Index, everyone. As always, we're taking a closer look at the guys who are lighting it up on the ice for the Rapids. And today we're focusing on a guy who has been very solid and on fire lately, and that is alternate captain Jeremy Dastu. If you've been following along with the team this season, you know that Jeremy has been a key contributor in every game, and his performance in December was nothing short of outstanding. Let's start with the numbers. In the month of December alone, Jeremy racked up 5 goals and 8 assists. That's 13 points through 8 games in that stretch in December. And for anybody keeping track, that puts him on pace for 88 points by the end of the season. When a player puts up numbers like that in a month, it shows that they're not only just getting lucky, they're playing smart, they're finding the right spots, and they're executing. Jeremy has done all of that and more. One game that really stood out to me was on December 20th against Campbellton, or against Amherst rather, where he delivered a 4-point game. That's right, 4 points in one night. He scored 3 goals and an assist to add to the huge win for the Rapids. And to put it in perspective, any player can score a hat trick in a game. It's a big deal. But then to add an assist on top of that, it's the complete performance that you love to see. And speaking of leadership, let's not forget that how he's been doing all season long. He currently leads the team with 47 points, and that's an impressive number on its own. But when you break it down, it's not just the scoring that makes him stand out, it's the consistency. Game in and game out, he has been one of the most consistent players on this roster, not just points-wise, but he's just been a fantastic forechecker as well. So doing this all year, game after game, is what he's done. Whether it's picking up key assists or putting the puck in the back of the net, being a guy who shows up when the game is on the line, he's a consistent source of production for this team. And it's not just about the stats either. As an alternate captain, leadership has been invaluable, and it's the kind of he's the kind of player that leads by example, whether it's in the locker room, on the bench, or on the ice. His work ethic is contagious, and that's when he's playing with confidence that he's shown recently. The whole team seems to rise with him, and now we're at a point where every point matters. The Rapids are in the competitive race, like we mentioned, and players like Dastu are going to be the ones who make a difference, right? You have your guys like Caleb McDonald, like Jeremy Dastu, like Jonah Laird, who are all ready to make a difference. And the success of this team has really helped him become a key part of this team this season. So to sum it up, Dastu is playing some of the best hockey of his career right now. And with 47 points to lead the team in a red-hot December, putting up 13 points in that stretch, this is the start to something that is huge and something to build onto going into this new year as well. So with that being said, we are going to wrap up this episode of the Rapids Heat Index. Be sure to stay tuned with players like Jeremy Dastu leading the way. We're bound to see some more exciting hockey in the weeks ahead. So that was the brand new segment called Rapids Heat Index, and that is something that I'm very excited to bring to you each and every week. We're going to try and get some interviews from the boys and get their perspective on how their season's going, things they love about the town, and just to get to know them a little bit off the ice as well. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for things to go and really get to know the players in a way that you haven't gotten to know them before. Now, we are going to leave it off with your usual question of the game as well, and this one's going to be a little bit of a thought-provoking one. I want you to think long and hard about this one before you answer, because there are a lot of great players on this team, but the question of the game for this week, who do you think is going to have the best point season for the rest in the second half of the regular season? So who is going to have the best season in the second half for this Grand Falls Rapids team? Now, with that being said, we are going to end off this episode of the Bellefleur Tire Shop Grand Falls Rapids pregame show, and we are going to enjoy the rest of the game, and I hope you do as well, whether you're here in the crowd or if you're watching at home on Flow Hockey. Devin Judge has the call for you. And it's going to be such a great game. You're not going to want to miss a second of the action. There's going to be lots to talk about in the Grand Falls Rapids post-game show. So tune in right here on the Rapids Rap YouTube channel. And we will talk to you very shortly when hopefully the Rapids can get another 2 points and close that gap just a little bit between the Miramichi Timberwolves and the hometown Grand Falls Rapids. We'll see you soon.